Okay, let's go again. Tachion 2214. Try and play an open Sicilian, I think. Actually, can I just close a few windows like chess base here? I'm looking at that post-mortem analysis. Close that one to free up some resources. G3, I think. Actually, my recording area is bigger than usual, so I'll make the screen a bit bigger for the board. You get a bigger board. Okay, you can still see the score sheet. Okay, I hope that's okay. Actually, it seems a bit huge to me. A bit off-putting. Looks like a real board, actually. Like an over-the-board board. Anyway, let's get back to the game. So, yeah. So C4 is a bit vulnerable. There isn't a knight b5 tactic. That's covered. So what about just queen e2, knight c4, bishop c1? I'll try that, I think. Just to be prepared for knight c4 a little bit anyway. So rook d1, knight c4, bishop c1. Oh, I'm trapping this rook in. That's a real shame. What about, I don't know, otherwise knight b2, so I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to waste time. Maybe b3 and bishop b2. So b3, knight a3, or I'll have to play that, I think. So if I get in bishop b2, then that'll be b5, then maybe a3. I don't think knight a3 here. Okay, so protect, try and neutralise that c file. So rook d1 now, or f4. I think rook d1. Okay. There's no sacrifice like knight f5. I'll just play king h2, a bit prophylaxis. If he takes rook d4, maybe I can play f4 and e5. f4 and e5, just trying to. Okay, b4 is not a threat here. So can I optimize this? Allow b4, and this is going to play d5 and then b4. If I play f4, then there's e5 actually. Takes. Rook is going to be awkward. So maybe a3 again, prophylaxis. a3 against e5. Otherwise, the counterplay just gets very, very painful without these prophylactic moves sometimes. So f4 or knight d5. I think f4, e5 takes. It's adequate for him to play e5. Do I do it anyway? I think I do it anyway. Okay, so maybe e5 now. In any case, just trying to sort of. Actually, bishop g2, can I not just take? He's got bishop f6. Then what? He's attacking my rook. Yeah, so he could just take on g2 here. Maybe I'll take with a king. Takes. Knight moves somewhere. Rook g4. Maybe I'm starting to develop an attack. Clock situation, I'm using a bit of time here. Okay, I'll take the king to keep an eye on e5. So takes, knight d7, e5 is going to be vulnerable. Rook e4, knight c5, rook g4. At least I'll be protecting e5. If I takes knight d7, rook g4, I lose e5. Does it matter? Queen e5, knight e5. Rook moves. This is the pawn down for nothing. I think I have to support e5. He's using a lot of time now, actually, which is encouraging. So maybe it's not that easy for black here. My pieces seem okay, but the king, I don't like the king being out. These checks are potentially useful on B7 and C6 here. This pawn's going to be blocking in this poor bishop, which is useful to keep open, as we've seen from earlier post-mortem analysis of another game. I don't know if I can keep that diagonal open. What about take something else? There's no rook e4. Rook can't retreat without e takes, and that'll be a lot of damage to my position, I think. Rook takes f4. Pawn down for nothing. Yeah. Okay, so I think I have to take on e5. Is it worth taking with the queen? He hasn't got bishop d6. Maybe it's worth taking with the queen. Because there'll be no knight d7 then after takes. But if it plays knight d7, I could take, and then I don't know. I don't like to get the queens off, so I think I'm going to take with the pawn. Okay, let's take with the pawn. Okay, so I just need to protect e5 for a moment. So I'm a bit tied down to the c file. I wonder about rook f2. There's bishop c5. Tied down to the c file. Really want to get my king out of danger as well. So maybe king here for a moment. There might be bishop a3 here. Whoops. What about rook f3 then? Just protecting c3 for a moment against bishop a3. So then, I don't know, rook g4 for knight e4. I lose c2. Rook g4. Okay, b5 is on. Take on c2. I'll take on b5 with the queen, actually. That looks good. Can't see the counterplay there. Okay, if I take on d5, he's going to end up winning the rook or not. I don't think so. I can play rook e2. Protect. Again, c2 on d5. Seems to be going my way at the moment. Okay, if I can just get this bishop in for the attack. Get the queen over here. Does it matter if I take that? Moral win. I claim a moral win again. Okay. If I go over here maybe, rather unsubtly, for g7. So he takes on a3 finally. I can play bishop d4 central for e6 to be a threat. Plays bishop c5 though. e6 is still looking good or not. Takes, f3, c2 is vulnerable. So I really want to keep that. Now I can keep the bishop. Oh, I opened up the bishop to g7. Okay, so e7 attacks. Or rook f6. What about just rook f6? Oh, this looks juicy. Does look juicy. But I've said that before and I mucked it up earlier. But this does look especially juicy. Okay, so e7, if takes e8, queening, it's not quite. Okay, I'll carry on with this attack with h5. I don't know if that's too slow, but it looks dangerous actually. Okay, so we keep the diagonal. Something nasty like queen d4. 30 seconds. Queen d4, threatening all sorts of nasties. I've actually celebrated the diagonal. That's good to do post-mortem analysis then. You realise the importance of these bishops for the attack, for keeping the bishops open. I don't know. Check out the yeah, please check out the post-mortem analysis and you'll see what I mean. That having an open bishop on the king is really a key thing for attacks, it seems, well, from the previous. But let's have a look at this game. So really, I thought I was on the back foot there actually. After I played one sort of inaccurate move. Maybe queen e2 is more accurate for knight e5 to be answered by rook d1, knight c4, bishop c1. So the way I played it, I've kept the rook in prison here. by having to play this now. The rook on a1's in prison. But did that matter? Because the rook actually comes to a reasonable position anyway. Maybe this isn't right. I think a3 was probably wise because e5 and b4 is going to happen. So a3 is probably another useful, like the king tucking is a useful prophylaxis move. So e5, I am blocking in my bishop. So maybe technically this is bad for white. Just in the game continuation he blundered with this a5. So where does he get counterplay though? But how would I proceed the attack with a blocked in bishop? Is it possible that rook g4 and knight e4 for knight f6 carries on the attack? Maybe. But then c2 is always a bit vulnerable. So if I play rook f2, I'm weakening the diagonal. So there's a lot of swings and roundabouts, but he just simply blundered here, I think. So he's put me right in the attacking seat. Fantastic bishop now. Comments or questions on YouTube? Hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the KingsCrusher channel. It's free and you'll be notified of any new videos. Thanks very much.